Okay, we are live.
Hello, everybody. I am Lieutenant J.P. Smith, Newport News Police Department, and on behalf of Chief Drew and the entire Newport News Police Department, thank you for joining us today for Facebook Live. One of the things we're going to talk about today is our CISM team, which is the Critical Incident Stress Management team. We put together about 5 or 6 years ago now. This is all focused around officer health and wellness, specifically the 21st century policing topics that was put together a couple of years ago. This falls under Pillar 6. If you want to look it up, you can Google it, and the PDF, 116 pages or so, will pop up for you, and you can read it at your leisure if you like to. But basically, Pillar 6 deals with officer wellness and safety, and one of the things that they recommend is for police departments and first responders to have a critical incident stress management team. Um, thankfully, Newport News actually started this whole idea before they even put this into writing. But yeah, so we've had one for a couple of years now. Our CISM team is made up of about 24 officers, dispatchers. We even have a forensic technician and park rangers. The fire department, who is a great partner with us, also has their own CISM team, and we work jointly together frequently. Um, I only have a half an hour, so I will try to answer as many questions as I can as you guys throw them up there. Say hello to whoever I can, but just know that if I miss your question, please don't take it personally. As you may well know, in the future, there'll be other topics like training, recruiting, internal affairs, community outreach, those kind of things. So if you want to save your question until then, or if you want to throw it up on our Facebook page, then we will respond to you pretty quickly. All right, thank you. Um, so what else? The CISM team is, like I said, made up of several officers, and they're from all ranks, from officer to sergeant to lieutenant to captain, even if we have an assistant chief on there. And the reason we have the multiple levels on there is it's all about peer support. And we want to make sure officers have officers to talk to, and supervisors have supervisors to talk to, and even the command staff has someone to talk to if they need to. It's all about peers, helping peers. And these peers are seasoned officers. A lot of them have been through a lot of traumatic experiences themselves in the past and have successfully negotiated through that and have recovered and are very mentally healthy now. We basically call them our wounded healers. At one time, they did go through a critical incident, and now they are ready to help others work their way through the healing process of going through that. When we talk about critical incidents, what are we talking about? Talking about it could be, responding to a shooting, being involved in a shooting, seeing a pretty horrific accident where people lose their lives, unfortunately. And of course, things like baby deaths, those kind of things that we see, unfortunately, almost on a daily basis. It's part of the job. We understand that, but it does take a toll after a while of seeing those things. And it's different for each person. I can't just say that each officer is going to react to a similar incident as others. Some may not be affected by it at all. Some may be affected by it for a significant period of time. And it just depends on the officer and the circumstances they find themselves in and their personal situation. Imagine if you are an officer that has a 3-year-old child and you go to a call for service where there's a 3-year-old child involved. And that child is hurt or injured or killed or something like that, and you have a 3-year-old child at home. It's just reasonable and understandable that those officers will make that association in their mind and think about their own 3-year-old child. And that can have a much more significant impact on them than maybe somebody that doesn't have any children or their children are grown or something like that. So each circumstance is different. We understand that for one person, it may not be that big of a deal. For the next person, it may be the most traumatic experience they are involved in their entire lives. But the important thing is we have officers and dispatchers and park rangers and forensic technicians and even the fire department that we can rely on to help each other through these things. So, um, yeah, looking for any comments. All right, feel free to throw comments. You got questions, feel free to throw them up there. Be more than happy to answer them, that kind of thing. So one thing too I want you to realize is that police officers are part of the general population too. We're not robots. We are human beings. We have our own families, our own friends, our own things we go through on our daily lives. So we're just like you, is what I'm trying to say. We just happen to wear the badge and we go do what we do. But we have our own families and our own issues that we deal with, and we have to take out the trash every day and put our kids through school and deal with all these things. So please know that. Another similar thing is I don't know if you're aware or not, but there is millions of Americans that live with various mental health conditions every day. So for example, depression, anxiety, those different kind of phobias and whatnot. Millions of Americans. So if you're out there and you're one of these people, know that you're not alone. It's okay. If you're an officer and you're out there and you have one of these things, know you're not alone. Okay. But it's important for us to realize these things, that people go through life with these different conditions, and for us to support them the best that we can. So just know that we're just like you. A lot of us have the same problems and issues we may be dealing with that you are at home. We find ourselves in a amazing situation in 2020. This is definitely a unique year, to put it mildly. I don't know about you, but I'm looking forward to 2021 and see what it brings. We're kind of write this one off. Between COVID and this the national tempo with the elections coming up, and how our media is helping to fuel the flames that we're dealing with as a society. We're experiencing those things too. So please realize we're right there with you. It makes it interesting. Yeah.
We have some questions.
Yep. Donna, when did the program start in Newport News? It's a great question. It was at least 5 years ago. Let's see, if not 7. I'd like to give you a date, but I want to say it was a good 7 years ago. We've been running for a while. Actually, shout out to Hampton Police Department. They actually started before us and helped us get started with training, and basically came in, opened their doors, and said, "Hey, this is how we work. Feel free to learn from any lessons that we have and best practices." And they have been a huge partner. We actually had training for the team two days ago, and Hampton was there with us, just learning from each other. So it was great. So big shout out to Hampton. Thank you. And we've grown since then. So we started kind of small. We learned a few lessons, and we've expanded since then. From one of the things we realized at the very beginning was we needed to include our dispatchers with this. Unfortunately, for some reason, I have no idea why, dispatchers are not considered first responders right now. They're part of public safety, but just imagine if you are a person, your job is to answer a phone, talk to a person that's in crisis, going through some kind of horrible situation. They're the first people that they talk to, and you have to listen to this person on the other end of the line, going through whatever it is they're going through. And basically what you're telling them is the police will be there as soon as they can. They're coming. And sometimes those situations turn really bad, and that dispatcher has to sit there and listen to that. And they do an amazing job of getting the information that we need as officers before we get to the scene, to keep us safe and to be able to address the issue and have an idea what's going on before we ever get there. My hat's off to them. But they do that day in and day out. So we learned very early that dispatchers are an integral part of this whole process, and we include them from the beginning. And we reached out to the park rangers, who are police officers too. They work our city parks, and make sure that they were involved too, because they do see some pretty difficult scenes sometimes as well. Shortly thereafter, the fire department heard what we were doing, and they jumped on board. We helped them create their team. Maybe 2 years later, and ever since then, we've been training together, having the same speakers, instructors come in and talk to both groups, and it's been a huge deal. Sometimes when we have a really significant incident on either the police side or the fire side, sometimes the police officers will go to the fire station, or the firefighters will come to the precincts and help each other. Sometimes, you may not want to talk to a police officer if you're a police officer. Well, we have firefighters there, and vice versa. If a firefighter doesn't want to talk to their fellow firefighters, maybe they want to talk to a police officer, and we can do that. So it works out pretty well in that regard. Thank you for the nice comments. I appreciate that. Yeah, Jeff Wright says it's okay not to be okay. That is one of my topics I'm going to bring up here in a minute. Like I said, people react different ways to different things. You may go to a scene that somebody may consider absolutely horrific, and you consider it not that big of a deal, doesn't have any impact on you. You go home and you're able to sleep soundly that night and not think about it. Another person may go and they will have nightmares and whatnot about that scene for weeks to months to come. Both of those people, that's a normal response. It's okay. There is no set response for a person to whatever kind of event they go to. If you have nightmares, if you can't eat, if you're having difficulty, holding your thoughts, those kind of things, it's okay. If you go through and you're ready to go back to work the next day and you are perfectly fine, and only you really know if that's true, that's okay too. Everybody's built different. We all come from different backgrounds, different circumstances. We have different coping mechanisms, and whatever your response is normal. Okay, it's okay. And as Jeff was saying, it's okay not to be okay. That is true. Like I said in the primer to this, everybody falls into three categories in their life. Either they're going through a crisis right now, they just came out of a crisis, or they're getting ready to go through a crisis. It's just ebbs and flows of life. Know that sometimes when you're going through a crisis, or you just came out of a crisis and you're trying to recover, it's okay not to be okay. Period. It's okay not to be okay. There's nothing wrong with you. We're all human, and we all just got to realize sometimes we need a little helping hand to get out of the hole we may find ourselves in. That's not a problem. Terry, great question. What can I do as a Newport News citizen to help local officers? Let's approach that from a couple different ways. First off, it's interesting how the pendulum seems to swing in the national media a lot, where you may turn on the TV and all you see is, protests, looting, cities that seem to be in complete disarray, and it seems like everybody they talk to just, absolutely hates the police. That is just a small portion of the United States. What can we do, or what can you do as a citizen? I find when I go out to lunch lately, or I'm just happen to be out and about in uniform, people will stop, take 5 seconds out of their day, and say, "Thank you for what you do. I appreciate you." And that is amazing. It may seem like not that big of a deal to say that, but each one of those people that says that, says basically what they're saying is, "I got your back. I appreciate you that you're there, and thank you for what you do." That means the world to our officers, because we watch the same news media, the same news channels that you guys do. We see the same Facebook posts and memes and everything else. It can be tough, and if you go as an officer to calls for service day to day, nobody calls us when, "Hey, why don't you come over and try my new chili recipe, or "Hey, my grandbaby was just born. Why don't you come on by and say hi?" it's usually, one of the worst days in their lives. So as officers and first responders, day in and day out, we are going and seeing people on basically probably the worst day of their life. And it's very easy as an officer to start to think, if they're going 8, 10, 12 hours a day on a shift and they go to those kind of calls over and over and over again, you can start to think that that's how the world is. And then you happen to go home when you're off, you take your uniform off, you turn on national media, and the world's on fire and people are tearing down stuff, and it's very easy to think that all the world is this way, but in reality it's not. I mean, if you get out and you walk around your neighborhood and you look around and you go to the mall or wherever it may be, um, people aren't that way all the time. So it's important for citizens, and I am extremely grateful personally for any time you stop and say thank you, we appreciate you. Um, that is a huge deposit in the mental health bank for our officers. What else can we do? Well, there's plenty of other things you can do. You can spread awareness. We can talk about, neighborhood watches. We can talk about being involved in community groups. We can talk about volunteering at whatever capacity, your local church or your school or wherever. Those things all help the community, also help us. We have citizen police academies you can come to and become more aware citizens of what's going on in your neighborhood and be informed, what we call informed reporters, where if you see something going on in your neighborhood, you can call us and give us really good detailed information, and then we can come and help you out. Those things are helpful too, okay? And then of course, we were coming up on the United Way season, and the Police Foundation is one of the categories that you can mark down. Newport News Police Foundation, excuse me. And they do, the Newport News Police Foundation does events and helps support officers in different little ways throughout the year that pays dividends for us and support. So, if you're looking to do the financial thing, then United Way and the Police Foundation is a great way to do it. If you're looking at, giving your basically your man hours or your woman hours, you're volunteering in your neighborhood, your community, at your church, or the police department. We have a ton of volunteers here. We're always looking for more. That's helpful. Each time a volunteer comes in and does work for an officer, that means that officer or detective can go over and do other things. We can go down and chase down the guys that are doing the crime and get out there in the neighborhood and really make a difference. Or simply, when you're out and about, happen to see a police officer, wave, hello, say thank you, that kind of thing. Super appreciated. So thank you for that question. That was awesome. Let's see. Danny, how are you, sir? Let's see. Yes, one of the things we learned in the past couple of years, like I said, we've learned a lot of lessons over the years. Nobody's perfect. We're always getting better. Is we had the honor of going over to Virginia Beach a couple of days after their active shooter event, which is just a horrific event any city would have to go through. But our SISM team went over there with a couple other local SISM teams, and we helped sit down with over 100 officers and first responders over there for a couple of days. And we helped talk them through what was going on, help them start the healing process again. And then we were able to, through our training, identify any people, any first responders over there that need a little more professional help. And we were able to hook them up with the clinicians that they needed. So, yeah. So we do have forensic techs on our team too. They are another unsung hero of our department. We send our forensic technicians to every significant event, every homicide, shooting. They are there, and they're not just there for a few minutes to take a report and get the information and move on. They are there to document that scene with thousands of photos and collected evidence and staying with that scene for hours. and that can wear on people. So we learned it's important to have forensic technicians there. And if you happen to see them too, please say hi. Feel free, buy them a cup of coffee, whatever you want to do. But they're amazing people. Um, let's see. Okay, thank you. It's a great question in regards to this is Police Academy resuming. I would definitely leave a message on the Facebook page and they will get back to you as soon as that is. I know they want to. I used to work in that area a couple of years ago, and it is one of the highlights of the year for us to do Citizens Police Academy. So, yes, absolutely. Um, there's one other thing I wanted to talk about real quick. If you want to scroll down, next question, feel free. There's one thing I want to talk about too, is something I didn't learn until I joined the CISM team, and then I went to a conference a couple of years ago that was put on by a organization called VA LEAP, Virginia Law Enforcement Assistant Program, I believe. Don't quote me on that. Great group of people put together by several officers, first responders around Virginia. Basically, you go to a conference for a week and you get to walk through the healing process in detail with clinicians and professionals and people that have been doing this for a very long time. But one of the things that stuck with me, and this was just a few years ago, I want to say about 5 years ago. And my first critical incident I was involved in was in 2002, near the beginning of 2002. So about, I don't know what that is, 12 years, 10 years before, 12 years before I went to this conference. One of the things I learned at this conference was there's a thing called the cop's dream. And I share this with the academy. Matter of fact, I'll be at the academy tomorrow teaching almost the exact same thing. But I talked to them about what they call the cop's dream. I did not know about this for over a decade. And firefighters have the same thing, nurses have the same thing, even teachers have this. So I want to describe the cop's dream to you. The cop's dream is you fall asleep, you have a dream where you go through whatever critical incident you were involved in. Usually, if it's like a shooting or something, then you are back at that scene and you are engaged with that suspect, but it doesn't turn out the same way that it actually did in real life. And what I mean by that is usually the suspect will be a lot faster than you are and you're moving very slow. Or, when you pull the trigger, your gun falls apart or doesn't work, or the trigger squeeze is like super hard and you can't pull the trigger. Or when you pull the trigger, the bullet just falls out the end. But I used to have this thing, what they call the cop's dream. And about once a month, maybe twice a month, I would have this dream. And you wake up, you're sweating and it scares you because it's just the guy gets a jump on you basically, and it's not the way it went down. And I thought there was something wrong with me. I had no idea. Well, it's normal. So I'm gonna let you know if you have that kind of thing going on, where once or twice a month or every week or whatever it may be, if you have that kind of thing, know that you're normal. It's okay. It's just your brain trying to figure things out and put pieces together. Firefighters have the same thing. If they're at a fire and they turn the hose on, the water just dribbles out. Those kind of things. Nurses have it too. Teachers, we all have some sort of dream where we have that anxiety going on and we're just not able to perform like we could, or for some reason the situation doesn't work out. Know that you are normal, and that's normal. You're not alone. A lot of people experience that. So I did want to bring that up. So please know that. One other thing I wanted to talk about, I got like 5 minutes left, half an hour. Whew. Maybe do this again sometime. Another thing I wanted to talk about too was grief, going through the grieving process. We all lose loved ones, and it's tough, especially if it's unexpected or if it's just, it's not fair. Okay. I just want to talk to you just for a minute about the grieving process. Whatever your reaction is, if it takes you a day to get over the loss of your loved one, or it takes you a decade to get over the loss of your loved one, it's okay. It's okay. If you bawl your eyes out for weeks on end, or you just don't want to get out of bed, or you just want to not associate with people, it's okay. That's okay. That's normal. All right. People should not be telling people that you should get over it by now. People shouldn't be telling you that you shouldn't be acting this way. Um, People shouldn't be telling you that it shouldn't be that significant for you. You didn't know them that well. Um, those people are incorrect. I'm here to tell you that. All right. There is no wrong way to grieve for someone. Okay. And however long it takes you is however long it takes you. It's perfectly fine. All right. Um, I appreciate the support. Thank you
Lots of
guys.
kudos to you.
Yeah, how about that? That's
Mhm,
awesome.
mhm.
Uh, okay, real quick. Some of you may have heard this story before. This is another one I like to share. Um, so way back in the day, maybe the 60s or 70s, when we were looking at life on Mars and all that kind of stuff, NASA created this experiment. It's called the Biodome. Not the movie. That was amazing. But the Biodome. So basically, what they did was they created this environment, an enclosed capsule where a group of people could live by themselves, self-sufficiently, for months on end, if not years. And they brought in crops and seeds and plants and soil and all this other stuff and water and very smart people. And they put all these people together and sealed them up inside of this dome. And they said, "All right, have at it. Go ahead and live your life out, and for however long." And, and so they started planting crops, and these crops would grow, corn, whatever it was, I don't know. But the crops would grow, and they get about so high, and they would um, get so high about the same time, and then they would fall over and die. And they're like, what the heck? Why are these crops not getting as tall as they're supposed to, and then bearing fruit, for whatever they want to eat? They would grow up and they would die. They would grow up and they would die. And they would try different things. They would change the soil pH balance. They were like, maybe it's the water, they're not getting enough water or too much. Maybe we need to check the dirt and all this kind of stuff. So they tried all kinds of ideas. These are scientists. Finally, somebody came along, somebody was pretty smart, and said, I know what you're missing. You're missing one thing. And they said, you're missing the wind in the natural environment. If you think about it, when crops grow up, or whatever, plants grow up, the wind pushes them to the left, pushes them to the right, pushes them to the left. It makes their stalks stronger. So as they get bigger, and then they have a strong enough stalk, then they can bear that fruit like they're supposed to. They come to maturity. So what's the parallel with that? We all go through difficult, trying times in our lives. Just know that wind, those crises, and those difficult times are there for a reason. It's so you can mature as a person, as a human being, and we are all the same. And if you make it through it, you live through it, and you get strong and healthy, you grow up, you have some fruit to bear. So my little story for you. I know there's a reason for everything. Okay. Sometimes we're like, why am I going through this? Well, just know that one day you're going to bear fruit because of all those problems that you're dealing with. Okay. Um, one last thing is, one last thing is, I wanted to say, take time for yourself. Take time for yourself. Take time for yourself. Get a hobby or two. Um, do not make your career your entire life. Nobody sits on their deathbed when they're old and says, man, I really wish I worked more. Nobody does. So please, 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 please take time for yourself. Get a hobby, spend time with your loved ones, associate with people outside of the first responder world. This is for my first responders. Get friends in the community, associate with your neighbors, take time for yourself, get that mental health checkup, build resiliency, and bear fruit. Thank you.